What do Fortnite, The Simpsons, and Free Guy all have in common? They've all been touched by the chaotic genius of Rick and Morty. From subtle Easter eggs to full-on crossovers, this show has infiltrated more dimensions of pop culture than Rick's portal gun could ever reach. And how many times has it occurred that you are watching your favorite movie, or a TV show, or playing a game, and suddenly you go like, wait a minute, is that Pickle Rick? Today, we are going to go through all of these cameos and Easter eggs in every TV series, every movie, every game, and even comics. Watch till the end so you don't miss out on these moments. However, before we move on to the references to Rick and Morty in TV shows, let us take a look at how the Rick and Morty show was created. So, one of the co-creators of Rick and Morty was asked to create a short in 2006, which was basically a parody of Doc and Marty from Back to the Future. The real animated adventures of Doc and Marty.
Don't be sad, Marty. We'll go back in time, and we'll make sure that your kite doesn't get stuck in the tree. All right, Doc, that sounds great.
This was the starting point for the Rick and Morty franchise we have today, and this is why the characters Rick Sanchez and Marty are inspired by Dr. Emmett Brown and Marty McFly from Back to the Future. Moving on, in the American Dad episode titled Henderson, we see a cameo appearance by Pickle Rick from Rick and Morty's episode titled Pickle Rick. How hard is it to make a fishbowl with one mongoose, two Pickle Ricks, and Kawhi Leonard in a Knicks jersey? In the TV series, Community's episode titled Analysis of Cork-Based Networking, towards the end of the episode, we see Abed and Rachel watching the pilot episode of Rick and Morty. Because who doesn't like some Rick and Morty craziness in their life? Moving on to the famous TV show, Family Guy, we see multiple nods to the Rick and Morty franchise. For example, in the episode titled Pal Stewie, we see Family Guy mocking its own show using Rick and Morty. When the father is trying to explain a joke from Family Guy's earlier episodes to his son, this is the son's reply.
Shut up, Dad! I'm watching Rick and Morty!
This shows how Family Guy is outdated, and the younger generation prefers newer shows like Rick and Morty, which is not wrong at all. In a fan-made video titled Family Guy Meets Rick and Morty, we see Rick making an appearance in the show Family Guy.
Nobody in the multiverse steals from me, especially not a baby and his talking dog.
But what is it that Stewie stole from Rick and Morty? Yes, it is the portal gun from Rick and Morty. In the Family Guy episode P Terminator, a fun nod to Rick and Morty is made.
I borrowed it from Rick and Morty. They've borrowed plenty from us.
Well, given how heavily Rick and Morty is inspired by Family Guy, I think they are entitled to steal that much. But that is not it. Stewie stole not only the portal gun, but ray guns from Rick and Morty, as revealed in the episode Gift of the White Guy, where he accidentally vaporized Meg. Moving on to the next show, Farzar, where in the episode Welcome to Farzar, when Renzo is telling his story, one of the students asks a question.
This gonna be more like Futurama or Rick and Morty?
Well, we got the average Renzo response to the question.
Gonna be more like, shut the fuck up.
In another episode, War and Peace, we see Renzo making a difficult decision. He decides to abandon the planet. But, of course, he had to take a cardboard cutout of Pickle Rick from Rick and Morty as a souvenir. Moving on to the infamous Futurama, where in the episode The Impossible Stream, we have a scene where Bender is scrolling through channels with parodic titles of famous shows. However, this Rick and Morty seems familiar. Oh, it's Futurama's nod to the shows Rick and Morty and Mork and Mindy. In the short titled League of Johnnies, released as part of the series Johnny Test, the title card of the episode has a hidden cameo. Can you guess it? Yes, it's once again Pickle Rick from Rick and Morty. In another show, My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic episode Granny's Gone Wild, we see Rick and Morty versions of ponies in the background. Moving on to the next show, Mystery Science Theater 3000, The Return, where in the episode Avalanche, where the gang goes to the theater to watch the 1978 film Avalanche, we see a scene where Florence is laughing hysterically, and to mimic her, Tom Servo laughs saying,
A really funny episode of Rick and Morty last night.
Know that.
In the Paradise PD episode How the Cookie Crumbles, Hobson, after being fired from the show, takes up another job as Morty. and even says that he is glad to be on the show where he gets to be crude and disgusting, mocking the crazy nature of Rick and Morty. However, Rick Sanchez, not able to withstand Hobson's disgusting rave, is seen committing suicide. We see multiple references to Rick and Morty in another show, Solar Opposites. For example, in the episode titled The Matter Transfer Array, while Jesse and Yumulak are discussing their bullying problem at the high school, a poster on the wall in the background reads, "Schwifty Live Jazz," which is a nod to the episode Get Schwifty of Rick and Morty. In another episode of the same show titled The Quantum Ring, we see Capervo going to a casting agency to hire someone to pretend to kill him. And while exploring his options, there are multiple headshots on the wall in the background. And guess what? Here is Morty Smith, or at least an inspired version of him. Similarly, in the episode The PATRICIA Device, we see a shattered photo frame of Summer Smith from Rick and Morty amidst the chaos and wreckage of the burning town. Moving on from Solar Opposites, we have Star Trek, Picard. This show has referenced Rick and Morty in the most relatable way. In the episode Assimilation, we see Teresa Ramirez using the ultimate method to get her son to study.
Termina la tarea o no, Rick and Morty.
In Stranger Things, Chapter 2, Vecna's Curse, there is a scene where the video rental store's computer has multiple names displayed on it. Can you find out the hidden name? Yup, it's Rick Sanchez from Rick and Morty. Now, moving on to The Simpsons, where the couch gag sequence for the episode Mathlete's Feet features Rick and Morty crashing into the house and killing the Simpsons family. To turn the events around, Rick and Morty try to clone the family. However, the result is even weirder than the family already is. In another Simpsons episode, Springfield Splendor, there is a guy teaching a college course in storytelling.
TV must be a circle.
Can you guess who this is? This is the writer, producer, and co-creator of Rick and Morty. In another episode, Krusty the Clown, Homer is looking at a TV which displays a list of TV shows, including Rick and Morty. Similarly, in the episode Treehouse of Horror 33, towards the end of the episode, there are multiple theme parks, each based on some of the most famous TV shows like SpongeBob and South Park. And of course, how can we forget Rick and Morty Universe? In the Tosh.0 episode P-Lady, Rick and Morty is among the list of TV shows shown on the screen. Now, let's move on to some movies that have referenced Rick and Morty. First, we have the movie Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers, where we see Chip and Dale being chased by Sweet Pete, Bob, and Jimmy. However, if you focus on the background, an attendant at FanCon is dressed as Pickle Rick, the hilarious character from Rick and Morty. In the same film, when Wheat Pete's bootleg machine is used to scan Chip and Dale, one of the art styles they are rendered in resembles the art style of Rick and Morty. If you look closely, Chip looks like Rick, and Dale resembles Morty. In a scene from the movie 8th Grade, we see Kayla and Gabe bonding over their love for Rick and Morty.
You know what would go great with this? Some Chinois sauce.
You like Rick and Morty too?
Yes.
Nice.
Now, moving on to one of the most loved movies by Ryan Reynolds, Free Guy. In the suspenseful scene where Free Guy is getting beaten, we see Keith saying,
"Oh shit, that's a death blow."
Get up!
Mom, he's coming in with a death blow!
You might have found the reference now. Yes, you are spot on. There is a Rick and Morty poster on Keith's bedroom wall. In the movie Godzilla, King of the Monster, one of the characters of the film, Dr. Rick Stanton is inspired by Rick from Rick and Morty. In the film titled I Came By, we see Hector watching an episode of Rick and Morty and enjoying his steak. We all wish we could do this all day. Is that right? Moving on to the famous DC franchise film Justice League, while Bruce Wayne is recruiting members for the team, he visits the Flash's house. We see the Rick and Morty episode Something Rick This Way Comes playing on one of the monitors. The question is, what does Rick and Morty have to do with saving the world? In the movie Krampus, we see a wanted poster of Rick Sanchez on Max Engel's bedroom walls. In Space Jam: A New Legacy, Bugs Bunny takes LeBron James through a universe full of Warner Brothers franchises to create the ultimate basketball team. But where do Rick and Morty fit in? Well, they appear in the space cruiser behind Marvin the Martian's spaceship. Was the reason behind their travel just to deliver the Tasmanian Devil, or was there a hidden purpose behind it? Well, I guess we will never know. Moving on to some video games with hidden Rick and Morty cameos and Easter eggs. First, we have the famous video game Borderlands 3, where we have the in-game characters Wick and Warty. Do the names sound familiar? If yes, then it might be because they are named after Rick and Morty. And that's not it. These characters use portal technology and powers within the game, just like Rick and Morty. And we cannot cover games without talking about Fortnite. As we all know, Fortnite is famous for its crossover with pop culture media, whether it be Travis Scott, Deadpool, or Avatar. Another one of these collaborations was Fortnite and Rick and Morty. This collaboration brought us skins for both Rick and Morty. In another famous game, Genshin Impact, one of the characters, Sayu, while using her elemental skill says,
And away I go.
and if you think that this phrase is familiar, then you are right. This is the catchphrase of Rick Sanchez from the Rick and Morty episode A Wrinkle in Time.
And away we go!
Also, the game Maneater nods to the Rick and Morty franchise through Chris Parnell, the voice actor for Rick and Morty. The narrator of the game, Chris Parnell, mentions Gazorpazorp when discovering a sunken UFO, a planet from the Rick and Morty episode Raising Gazorpazorp. Here is the actual gameplay scene.
Even the self-driving technology of Gazorpazorp is not without its reliability concerns.
In another game, The Outer Worlds, one of the characters, Sherman Bradshaw, says,
Oh well, here I go killing again.
which is a nod to Crombopulus Michael's catchphrase from Morty Night Run, which goes like this.
Oh boy, here I go killing again.
In the video game Paladins, we see a reference to the high IQ meme on Rick and Morty. You need a very high IQ to understand Rick and Morty. Well, here is Paladin's version of the meme when Omega Vivian's taunt kill goes like this.
To be fair, you have to have a really high IQ to get this.
In another game, Supperland, multiple houses have something similar to a plumbus often seen in Rick and Morty.
That leaves you with a regular old plumbus.
But that's not all. In the DLC, there is a vat of acid which turns out to be fake if jumped into, with a scientist inside. Also inside is a hatch which, if opened, will release some bones. In another game, the World of Warcraft, we see a type of ooze mob in Maldraxxus, which the game creators have named Turbulent Juice. But where does this name come from? Yes, you guessed it correctly. The name has been taken after the multi-purpose cleaning product and nutritional supplement featured in Rick and Morty. The Rick and Morty impact is not confined to shows, movies, or games, but also extends to comics. For example, on the Foxtrot Comics February 2018 release, we see Jason coming up with a method to use Rick and Morty episodes to help Marcus and him develop a code language to communicate. Moving on, we have some Rick and Morty references in other media as well. For example, in a video by College Humor titled Stop Ruining Rick and Morty, where we see a therapy session between Rick and Morty and an obsessive fan, to which the therapist gives this diagnosis.
Okay, I would classify this as a textbook toxic relationship.
In another comedic skit, Epic Rap Battles of History, we see the rap battle between Ronald McDonald and the Burger King going like this.
Why don't you call me Ronald Jeremy? Cause I'm getting nasty, like the Whoppers you sell, made of horse lips and ass me. Ask Rick and Morty who's the lyrical boss.
Ronald is the clear winner of this battle if you ask me. In the video series, Honest Trailers, with the motto, Trailers that show you the truth about your favorite shows, we see a Back to the Future exclusive.
Hey, I've seen this one. This is a classic.
In this video, Dr. Emmett Brown and Marty McFly are referred to as Rick and Morty.
Starring Rick and Morty.
Similarly, in another video for Everything Everywhere All at Once, where Hollywood is mocked for not having any new ideas. But what part does Rick and Morty play here? Maybe this?
Comes a film that combines Hollywood's last two genres, Rick and Morty, and heartfelt stories about dysfunctional Asian families.
In another video series, Nostalgic Critics review of Dreamcatcher, The nostalgic critic jokes about catchphrases, at the end of which we see a compilation of Rick and all of his catchphrases. Just how can anyone not remember these?
Wubba lubba dub dub! Ricky ticky taffy, bitch!
Huh? That's strange. I don't remember those.
And there you have it. A multiverse of Rick and Morty references hiding in plain sight across pop culture. From subtle nods to full-blown parodies, it's clear that the influence of this chaotic duo is as boundless as Rick's portal gun. If we have missed anything, do let us know in the comments. Until next time, keep an eye out. You never know when another Rick and Morty Easter egg will drop into your dimension.